One of the main stories from the African continent today, Cameroon's President PaulBiya being confirmed as the winner of the latest election in the country. This means the oldest serving head of state in the world has now secured an 8th term in office. Hours after that, we heard the opposition challenger, the main opposition challenger, reporting that there was gunfire heard around his home. So here's what's happened. Biya secured 53.66% of the vote against the 35.19% that his former ally, Issa Chiroma Bakri, has won. The country's Constitutional Council making the announcement shortly after noon today. A new 7-year term could keep the veteran leader in power until he's nearly 100 years old. Opposition protesters have meanwhile clashed with security forces on the streets of various cities in Cameroon in the last 24 hours or so. They were hoping that the opposition leader would be declared the winner of the October 12th vote. There's been no immediate comment on the results from the government, which has rejected opposition accusations of irregularities. So after the announcement of those results, Chiroma took to Facebook saying that 2 people were shot dead or were killed after shots were heard, fired towards civilians, he said, just outside his home in the northern city of Garoua. Let's speak further about the situation in Cameroon now. Bring in political analyst Levi Mboushou. Good to have you on the SABC this evening. So President Biya then back for another term in office. By the time he's reached its end, he would have been chasing 100 years. But was this a credible, or is this a credible election result?
Thank you. I must say that speculations had been rife just before the elections were actually conducted, that the elections had no ingredients of fairness. And on election day itself, we did see how there was calm with preliminary results showing that the main challenger, Issa Chiroma Bakri, had won across major polling stations in the country. 48 hours after that victory, Issa Chiroma Bakri started laying claims to victory based on preliminary results he had had from key polling stations. I would refer to them as swing divisions across the country. And this was immediately rejected and criticized and condemned by the ruling class. But then every ingredient showed that the elections might have been credible themselves. But the management of the results thereafter, the doctoring of return sheets from polling stations, the suppression of dissent and dissidents, all of these pointed to mass irregularities. I must also add that at the time the National Vote Counting Commission were wrapping up with their findings, no room was given for examining the contests and the protests that had come from the various contending political parties. I remember that Issa Chiroma Bakri's party member, who was a member of that commission, was never given the chance to lay his claim. He got up from the room and walked out in protest of the way things were being handled. And then since that time, everybody had been clamoring for ELECAM, the election management body, if you like, to look into cases of mass irregularities, fraud, doctoring of election return sheets, even by the most highest ranking officials, right, administrative officials, government officials who were involved in this. So no, there was no smell of regularity in these elections, I must say.
So if that is the case, and the people who were protesting on the streets yesterday, the opposition supporters said they wanted to prevent a stealing of victory from Chiroma Bakri, where to next for the opposition leader and his supporters? What options are at their disposal?
Now, if we lived in a system where there were any means of recourse, there were any means of appeal, that would have been the go-to for the opposition leader. Now, the law of the land says that the Constitutional Council's decision is final and is not subject to any form of appeal. Unfortunately, the opposition leader has had no choice than to call his militants and sympathizers to go down to the streets. We started seeing this from yesterday. Things turned sour and things went south. 4 protesters were killed. Today, 2 more were killed around amongst the persons who formed the human shield around the opposition leader's home up north in Garwa. And there is no other cause. He's called for the international community to step in and look into what's happening and to say something, because there's been some surprising silence from the international community, which we should not expect. So I would say that his go-to, as we speak, is the street. So he counts on street power to be able to change the dynamics of the game as we see in the Cameroon political landscape.
But if those who are taking to the streets are being met with, let's say, a heavy hand by the security forces, to what end would taking to the streets be effective for the opposition? Would that work in terms of bringing about change? And what would that mean in terms of democratic regime, or actually a democratic handover of power, if that's ultimately going to be the goal?
Okay, now, the sad thing is, over the years, the only time we had a protest near what we find now was in 1992, where a political leader at the time of late John Frundi had also laid claim of election victory. He said the victory was stolen from him. We saw massive protests in the country at the time. Houses were being burned, structures and facilities belonging to the ruling party Fidels were being destroyed, were being shattered, were being burnt down. Today, we went through other political upheavals where security forces have succeeded to squash these kinds of dissidents and these kinds of protests. But today it's a different ballgame, because partisan supporters of Issa Chiruma Bakari, majority of whom are the youth, have taken to the streets to vent their pent-up anger. They are not only angry that the victory was stolen, they are all angry that incoming President PaulBiya, who has been, so to speak, given another victory for another 7-year mandate, is 92. He's barely seen in the public space. And then everybody is wondering, is he fit to lead? Has he been able to deliver? The answer across the board is no. And he is being handled and masterminded by a select few who are the elite, who are in power, who hold the influence and the resources to keep him in power, whereas the people believe the masses are suffering.
Right.
Now,
just on that point,
in a case like this,
please finish your point,
please.
sir.
Okay, I was saying that in this case, not only Issa Chiruma Bakari expects that the street would turn the tide, but the civil society at large, the political class, they expect that enough is enough, that no regime should cling to power at the expense of its own citizens. The forces of law and order have been using live bullets. Just today, about 10 people are reported dead, in addition to the ones that died in Garwa around Issa Chiruma's residence. Up north, 2 persons died in a city called Ngong. And he's counting that this could be the game changer, that the President of the Republic could step in quickly and then say something, do something, because this was too close to call. There are allegations of electoral fraud, and nothing has been said about that. There were cases where Elecam, the election body's officials, confessed that he had been bribed with 30 million francs. That was in Makari up in the extreme north. There were cases where the police people had nabbed about 6 persons belonging to Elecam who were caught frauding elections. Nothing has been done to that. Everybody was expecting that with these kinds of results, a halt will be put to the proclamation of the results by the Constitutional Council. That did not happen. So today, we fear what's happening on the streets of Cameroon. The forces of law and order were able to quash this kind of uprising in 2018 when we had another political leader, Maurice Kamto. Today, they seem powerless. It's like a gangrene. It's like some cancer. It's spreading across, not only in the streets of Douala and Garoua and Yaoundé. Other parts of the East region and the West region in Bafoussam are picking up steam.
Right.
So we fear that if nothing is done, things might go south more than what we find today.
Very briefly, at 92, eighth term in office, what does PaulBiya have to offer Cameroonians now?
I must say this, it's been garbage in, garbage out. So political analysts say that at the time when there are pointers, there are trigger points indicating that the man is tired, the man is beaten, the man is battered, the man is shattered, struck down, bogged down by the manacles of age and time, yet he wants to cling tenaciously to power, of course, with his lieutenants wanting to make him to stay there. There is basically more or less nothing he can offer Cameroonians, yet he refuses to listen to the cry. Unfortunately, we say it all the time, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I must add this before we go, please. In recent times, all outings of the President of the Republic have been strictly doctored and monitored. They don't want the camera to be focused on him because they don't want people seeing how frail, how aging, how he walks with lots of difficulty. So people say that at his age, he has nothing to offer, but yet no one wants to listen. No one wants to heed the call of everybody. Issa Chiruma, his greatest ally, had actually pointed out that he's not accessible.
Thank you so much, Levi Mboushou. Unfortunately, I'm being told that we are absolutely out of time, but thank you once again for speaking to us. Levi Mboushou is a Cameroonian political analyst speaking to us about the latest headlines from there. PaulBiya at 92 confirmed to lead the country once more, even though there had already been a claim of victory by the opposition leader Issa Bakari. And tonight we've been asking for your reactions then to the developments in Cameroon.
Wandile saying congratulations to the non-Nigerian, but I don't think he will finish his term as the head of state due to health reasons and ageism. Cameroonians have shot themselves on the foot.
Ngoni Stanford says, I see some of my fellows here don't know there's an animal called election rigging. Most of them here are blaming the people of Cameroon, but the reality is those Madalas, they believe in rigging as well as intimidation because they know free and fair, I think that's free and fair elections they would lose. Ask the opposition.
Sawate, good evening. Tabela Mezwane Warra Mkhotote, not forgetting the sign language interpreter. Okay, firstly, we are congratulating him, but disappointed by his greediness. Give the youth a chance to lead.
There's one here, I think this has come from the WhatsApp line, in fact. It says, the only way Africa will develop is to try out energetic and youthful minds in decision-making. A practical example is what we're seeing in Burkina Faso. And of course, it's expected that other African leaders will follow suit. It's a pity that the youth of Cameroon have not taken to the streets through riots, claiming fraudulent practices by the incumbent government in the just ended presidential elections. Let's open our eyes, Africa. That's from Kampamba Chilufya in Zambia.